Yo, Brooklyn Beckham just dropped the biggest bombshell of 2026. After years of silence, he posted a 6-part Instagram story exposing what really happened with his parents, David and Victoria Beckham, and it's absolutely wild. Brooklyn wrote, "I have been silent for years and made every effort to keep this matter private. Unfortunately, my parents and their team have continued to go to the press, leaving me with no choice but to speak for myself. So all those tabloid stories, Brooklyn saying his own parents' PR team was planting them. He flat out said, I do not want to reconcile with my family. I'm not being controlled. I'm standing up for myself for the first time in my life. For months, the narrative has been that Nicola Peltz is manipulating Brooklyn. He just flipped that entire story on its head. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another video. But if you're new to the channel and enjoy celebrity deep dives or keeping up with the latest news out of Hollywood, consider subscribing and joining me on my quest to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you for watching. Now let's get into it. So to understand this feud, we need to go back to April 2022, when Brooklyn and Nicola got married at the Peltz family estate in Palm Beach, Florida. Everyone expected Nicola to wear a Victoria Beckham wedding dress since her mother-in-law is a famous fashion designer. But Nicola walked down the aisle in Valentino couture instead, and people immediately said she deliberately snubbed Victoria. The media went crazy with it. Brooklyn just revealed what actually happened. He wrote, "My mom canceled making Nicola's dress in the 11th hour despite how excited she was to wear her design, forcing her to urgently find a new dress. So Nicola actually wanted Victoria's design. She was excited about it, but Victoria pulled out weeks before the wedding, leaving Nicola scrambling to find a replacement dress at the last minute. That's not a snub from Nicola, that's Victoria creating a problem." But the dress situation was just the beginning. What happened at the reception is honestly even worse, and that is the part everyone's talking about. Brooklyn and Nicola had planned their first dance weeks in advance. They picked out a romantic love song, choreographed their moment. It was supposed to be one of the most special parts of their wedding day, but then Mark Anthony, the famous singer performing at the wedding, called Brooklyn to the stage. Instead of Nicola waiting for their romantic first dance, Victoria was standing there. Brooklyn wrote, "In front of our 500 wedding guests, Mark Anthony called me to the stage, where in the schedule was planned to be my romantic dance with my wife. But instead my mom was there, waiting to dance with me instead." Can you imagine being Nicola in that moment? You're the bride. It's supposed to be your first dance, and your mother-in-law hijacks it in front of 500 people. And here's the part that shocked everyone. Brooklyn said, "She danced very inappropriately on me in front of everyone. I've never felt more uncomfortable or humiliated in my entire life." TMZ reported that sources say the dance lasted several minutes, an entire song, and left guests unsure how to react. Victoria was allegedly grinding on Brooklyn in a way that crossed the line. People who were there said it felt more like romantic partners than a mother and son. Brooklyn was reportedly mortified. A wedding guest named Stavros Agapiou, the partner of DJ Fat Tony, who performed at the wedding, confirmed Brooklyn's story in a now-deleted Instagram comment. "I was there, and she did. He's telling the truth." An anonymous tip sent to Dumois back in 2022 said Nicola literally ran out crying. Her family went after her, and Brooklyn followed. They didn't come back until after the party. The tip also said Mark Anthony's speech didn't mention Nicola or her family at all. This is why Brooklyn and Nicola renewed their vows in August 2025 without a single Beckham present. Brooklyn said they wanted to create new memories that bring joy and happiness, not anxiety and embarrassment. Now, the wedding drama is bad, but Brooklyn exposed something even darker behind the scenes. Brooklyn claims that weeks before his wedding, David and Victoria repeatedly pressured and attempted to bribe him into signing away rights to his name, which would have affected him, his wife, and their future children. He said his parents were adamant that he signed these papers before the wedding date, because then the terms of the deal will be initiated. These are called NIL rights, the right to control and profit from commercial use of your name and image. Back in 2017, David and Victoria registered all their children's names, Harper, Brooklyn, Romeo, and Cruz, with the UK's Intellectual Property Office. They were building a commercial empire around the Beckham name and wanted control over all of it. When Brooklyn refused to sign, he says it affected their payday, and they have never treated him the same since. Brooklyn is basically accusing his parents of putting business before family. That paints a picture where brand Beckham comes before actual family bonds. Brooklyn also revealed that the night before his wedding, family members told him Nicola was not blood and not family. Imagine hearing that your soon-to-be wife just hours before you marry her. That's not just hurtful, that's cruel. During wedding planning, Victoria called him evil because he and Nicola wanted to include their childhood nannies at the table. These were women who raised them, who were hugely important in their lives, but Victoria had a problem with them being given that honor. Brooklyn detailed how his family's treatment of Nicola didn't stop after the wedding. Victoria repeatedly invited women from Brooklyn's past into their lives in ways clearly intended to make them both uncomfortable. Exes showing up at family gatherings, old flames being paraded around. Whatever it was deliberate and designed to create problems in his marriage. In May 2025, everyone noticed Brooklyn and Nicola weren't at David's huge 50th birthday celebration in London. The media went wild with speculation, but according to Brooklyn, they actually flew to London for the party. He says they waited in their hotel room for an entire week, trying to arrange quality time with David, but David refused all their attempts unless it was at the party, with hundreds of guests and cameras everywhere. Basically, just a photo op to make the family look united. And when David finally agreed to see Brooklyn one-on-one, it was under the condition that Nicola wasn't invited. That's a massive slap in the face to your son's wife. Later, when the family traveled to Los Angeles, they refused to see him at all. Now here's where it gets really interesting. One of Brooklyn's most damning accusations is about what he calls Brand Beckham. He wrote, "My family values public promotion and endorsements above all else. Brand Beckham comes first. Family love is decided by how much you post on social media or how quickly you drop everything to show up and pose for a family photo op." Brooklyn says his parents have controlled narratives in the press his entire life. He calls it performative. The social media posts, the family events, the inauthentic relationships that have been fixtures of the life he was born into. He says, "Recently, I've seen with my own eyes the lengths they'll go through to place countless lies in the media, mostly at the expense of innocent people to preserve their own facade." So all those perfect family photos, the heartwarming Instagram posts, Brooklyn is saying it's all fake, all part of a carefully constructed brand image that has nothing to do with real family love. What's particularly sad is how this has affected Brooklyn's relationship with his siblings, Romeo, Cruz, and Harper. Brooklyn revealed that even his brothers were sent to attack him on social media before they blocked him last summer. Notice that phrasing, "were sent to attack me." He's suggesting his younger brothers were being used as weapons in this family war, potentially at their parents' direction. The blocking actually happened in December 2025, reportedly after Victoria liked one of Brooklyn's cooking videos on Instagram. Cruz confirmed the blocking publicly on December 21, writing on Instagram, "Not true. My mom and dad would never unfollow their son. Let's get the facts right. They woke up blocked as did I." Brooklyn has now blocked all family members on social media, and Nicola scrubbed all traces of the Beckhams from her accounts. That includes deleting a post where she wished Victoria happy birthday and called her "my beautiful MIL," saying, "I love you so much and love being your dance partner forever." That caption about being Victoria's dance partner forever hits really differently now that we know about that wedding dance incident, doesn't it? So after everything Brooklyn has revealed, we need to ask, why does the Beckham family seemingly hate Nicola so much? Here's what it looks like. Brooklyn has been part of the Beckham brand his entire life. He was controlled, managed, and presented to the world in a very specific way. But Nicola comes from her own powerful family. Her father, Nelson Peltz, is a billionaire businessman. She doesn't need the Beckham brand. She has her own identity, her own money, her own connections. She didn't need to fall in line the way Victoria expected, and that was a problem. Victoria couldn't handle the competition, and she couldn't handle not being the center of attention at her son's wedding. She needed to be the most important woman in the room, and Nicola's presence threatened that. When Nicola appeared on magazine covers with titles like "The New Mrs. Beckham," that reportedly made things even worse. Victoria has been the Mrs. Beckham for decades, and she may have seen Nicola as competition rather than family. Brooklyn says his family values are based on social media posts and photo ops. It's all performative, but Nicola wanted actual real relationships instead of fake ones designed for Instagram. That fundamental difference in values created an impossible situation. Perhaps the most important thing Brooklyn revealed is the impact this has had on his mental health. He wrote, "I grew up with overwhelming anxiety. For the first time in my life since stepping away from my family, that anxiety has disappeared." He continued, "The narrative that my wife controls me is completely backwards. I have been controlled by my parents for most of my life," Brooklyn says. "I wake up every morning grateful for the life I chose, and I've found peace and relief. My wife and I do not want a life shaped by image, press, or manipulation. All we want is peace, privacy, and happiness for us and our future family." Look, family dynamics are complicated, and we're only hearing one side in detail. But Brooklyn has laid out very specific allegations with very specific examples. If these things didn't happen, the Beckhams can dispute them, but so far, they haven't really responded. David was asked about it at the World Economic Forum in Davos, and he declined to answer questions. He did make one comment to CNBC saying his kids have made mistakes on social media, which feels like a pretty dismissive response to everything Brooklyn just revealed. And the narrative that keeps getting pushed, that Nicola is the manipulative one controlling Brooklyn, falls apart when you look at the facts. Nicola has stayed relatively quiet through all of this. She's let Brooklyn speak for himself. That's not control, that's support. Brooklyn is a 26-year-old man making adult decisions about his life, his mental health, and his future family. He's choosing to protect his marriage and his peace of mind over maintaining a fake relationship for the cameras. Brooklyn spent Christmas 2025 in Palm Beach, Florida with Nicola and the Peltz family instead of with the Beckhams in the UK. In David's social media recap of 2025, not a single photo included Brooklyn or Nicola. Hours later, David posted childhood photos on Instagram stories, including a black and white photo with Brooklyn, with the caption, "I love you all so much," in what seemed like an attempt to extend an olive branch, but it was too little, too late. TMZ is also reporting that Brooklyn and Nicola have no plans to ever release their wedding footage because of how uncomfortable and humiliating that dance was. The couple had tight security at the wedding, no phones were allowed, everyone had to sign NDAs, and their phones were confiscated. According to sources, Victoria was the only person allowed to keep her phone after an exception was made for her. The videography company uploaded the footage directly to a computer accessible only to Brooklyn and Nicola, and per contract, was required to wipe all copies and sign an NDA. If the footage ever leaked publicly, it would be immediately clear that it came from the videographer. Sources say Brooklyn has stayed offline since posting a statement and isn't reading reactions, but he's reportedly surprised and appreciative of the support he's received. The couple is currently laying low. And Brooklyn has hired lawyers from Schillings, a prestigious law firm that also represented Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. These are the same lawyers who helped Harry and Meghan navigate their own family drama. That's how serious this is. He's instructed them that all communication with his parents goes through the lawyers from now on. Nicola recently got a family first tattoo in Yiddish, seen as endorsing Brooklyn's decision to prioritize his own family over the Beckhams. This public statement has shattered the Beckham brand image. They built an empire worth hundreds of millions of dollars through brand deals with companies like Adidas, Calvin Klein, and Pepsi. Plus David's partnership and Victoria's fashion brand, they've marketed themselves for decades as this perfect, united celebrity family. Brooklyn's public statement has completely shattered that image. Insiders are calling it a strategic crisis for the family brand because everything they built relies on the perception of wholesome, multi-generational loyalty. When the eldest son comes out and says it's all fake, that's the family love is performative and based on social media posts, it undermines everything. The contrast between how the two families have handled this is stark. The Peltz family has stayed relatively quiet and supportive. They welcome Brooklyn with open arms, and Nicola's family has clearly embraced him. Meanwhile, the Beckhams have allegedly been feeding stories to the press, trying to control the narrative and paint Nicola as the villain. The Beckhams have always been very strategic about their public image. Pictures of their wedding and Victoria's pregnancy with Brooklyn were syndicated to OK magazine back in the day. They both had Netflix documentaries made about them that were meticulously controlled versions of their family stories. So when Brooklyn says they've been controlling narratives in the press his entire life, he's not exaggerating. This is what they do. But now their own son has broken free from that control and is telling his own story, and they can't stop him. The fact that Brooklyn's overwhelming anxiety disappeared after cutting contact with his family is really telling. That's not normal. That suggests the family dynamic was genuinely toxic and harmful to his well-being. And if he had to choose between his parents and his mental health, Brooklyn chose himself. That's not being controlled by Nicola. That's being strong enough to prioritize your own health and happiness. So that's where we are with the Beckham family feud. Brooklyn has broken his silence with receipts. Nicola has scrubbed her social media of all Beckham content. Wedding guests have confirmed parts of his story. The family has hired lawyers. This family is more fractured than ever, and honestly, I don't see how they come back from this. Some things once said can't be unsaid. Well, what do you think? Do you believe Brooklyn's side of the story? Was he right to speak out publicly, or should he have kept this private? And what really went down at that wedding? Leave your thoughts down below because I want to hear what you think about this whole situation. And if you're not already subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any updates on this story, because there's absolutely no way this is over yet. As always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.